Good evening. You're now with me, Lorenzo Isaac, for Tvs Nightline. Here are the headlines for tonight. Incentives await SUKMA gold medalist, Premier Sarawak told. The Sarawak State Legislative Assembly today passed two supplementary supply bills. Meanwhile, tourism autonomy will enable Sarawak to formulate its own policy. Any Sarawakian athletes who successfully bring home gold in the upcoming 21st Malaysian Games SUKMA will be promised generous incentives by the Sarawak government. Premier Sarawak Dato' Pendingin Tan Sri Abang Johari Tun Openg announced this initiative as a morale boost for athletes to hoist the Ibu Pertiwi throughout the biennial championship.
Insentif memang kita ada insentif. Saya terpulang kepada Yang Berhormat Datuk Karim. Kita tengok bagaimana prestasinya lah. Memang ada. Nanggap performance tidaknya dulu. Beri batik khas. Tapi nyasib menang. Saya ada reti je.
He said this to reporters after the 100 days to SUKMA 21 countdown ceremony earlier today. Abang Johari added that incentives will also be given in other sporting events and called on young athletes to bring glory to Sarawak in the sports arena.
Mesti membawa bendera Ibu Pertiwi macam tinggi tiang di batafran. Kalau tiang bendera yang dah tinggi di rantau ini, maka hasrat kami ialah dalam kerajaan, adik bawalah Ibu Pertiwi dalam SUKMA.
Earlier, it was reported that the Johor State Government offered incentives of 10,000 ringgit for individual events and 20,000 ringgit for team events that successfully clinched gold medals in this edition of SUKMA.
The Sarawak State Legislative Assembly DUN today passed two supplementary supply bills involving a sum of 514,203 ringgit as additional expenditure for the previous allocation. The Supplementary Supply Bill 2023 involves a sum of 267,928,353 ringgit, while the Supplementary Supply Bill 2024 involves a sum of 246,073,650 ringgit. Both bills are tabled by Deputy Premier Sarawak, Dato' Amar Douglas Ugambas, who is also Second Minister of Finance and New Economy, received a majority support from members of the August House.
Is required by the Department of the Premier of Sarawak to cater for the following. 1. Rental of office building amounting to ringgit Malaysia 42 million. 2. Operating grant for ICAT University College amounting to ringgit Malaysia 30 million. 3. Operating grant for the University of Technology Sarawak UTS amounting to ringgit Malaysia 19,200,000. 4. Operating grant for Tabung Ekonomi Gagasan Anak Sarawak Tegas amounting to ringgit Malaysia 9,240,000. 5. Facilities Management Services for Government Office Complex amounting to ringgit Malaysia 6,046,000. And 6. Grant to Yayasan Sarawak for Local Scholarship Program amounting to ringgit Malaysia 6 million. B. A total sum of ringgit Malaysia 78 million is required by the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Entrepreneur to cater for the management of SUKMA, the 21st Sarawak 2024. C. A total sum of ringgit Malaysia 16,049,000 is required by the Ministry of Women, Early Childhood and Community Wellbeing Development for organizing Para Sukma 21 Sarawak 2024.
He said this when tabling the supplementary supply bills at the Sarawak State Legislative Assembly earlier today. According to UGA, the additional expenditure is to meet the cost of various services incurred by various ministries and departments, for which funds were insufficient in the 2023 spending estimates.
The Sarawak government will have to authority to negotiate on tourism in the region should Article 25A tourism of the Federal Constitution be amended to include tourism in List 3 concurrent lists of the 9th schedule of the Federal Constitution. Deputy Minister of Tourism, Creative Industry and Performing Arts, Datuk Sebastian Ting Chiu Yu, said the matter has been presented to the federal government.
With collaboration and cooperation between Sarawak and the federal government under the proposed concurrent list, Sarawak will facilitate to its own tourism development and will have the flexibility to adapt tourism matters into our own local law.
He said this in reply to a question from Batu Kitang Assemblyman Datuk Loh Kier Chang during a Q&A session at the Sarawak State Legislative Assembly earlier today. The term tourism was not originally in any of the lists set out in the 9th schedule of the Federal Constitution. However, Ting said that in 1994, the term was inserted into the federal list of aforementioned scheduled by Act A885 and was enforced in June 26, 1994.
The road connecting Kampong Tanjung Bakor and Samajaya Industrial Park is expected to be completed by February 2026. Deputy Minister of Urban Planning, Land Administration and Environment Sarawak, Datuk Lan Talif Saleh, said this move aims to address several traffic congestion issues.
Projek ini termasuklah pembinaan jambatan merentasi Sungai Sarawak ke kawasan sejingkat yang dijangka siap pada suku ketiga tahun 2025. Kedua-dua projek tersebut bernilai 472,472.7 juta dan kedua, jalan penghubung dari kawasan Setutung ke Jalan Datuk Muhammad Musa Semerahan adalah sebahagian daripada projek pembinaan jalan akses ke kawasan selatan lapangan terbang antarabangsa Kuching. Sarawak yang melibatkan pembinaan 3 jambatan konkret dan keseluruhan projek bernilai 266 juta yang dijangka siap pada suku kedua tahun 2025.
In addition to that, he said the government is actively developing the Kuching Urban Transportation System, KUTS.
Membangunkan Kuching Urban Transportation System, KUTS, yang melibatkan laluan bagian Autonomous Rail Transit ART Line 1, Semerahan Line dari Rembus, Kota Semerahan sehingga ke Hikmah Exchange, Kuching, bagi mengurangkan kebergantungan terhadap penggunaan kenderaan persendirian dan seterusnya, menggalakkan penggunaan pengangkutan awam di Bandaraya Kuching dan Semerahan.
He said this in reply to a question from Setakan Assemblyman Datuk Hamzah Ibrahim at the Sarawak Legislative Assembly earlier today.
Sarawak has seen a promising decline in the prevalence of underweight, stunting, wasting and overweight children under 5 based on the findings of the National Health Morbidity Survey conducted in 2016 and 2022. Minister of Women, Early Childhood and Community Wellbeing, Datuk Sri Fatimah Abdullah, announced that the survey indicated a decrease in underweight children, dropping from 17.8% to 15.6% in weight for age. Meanwhile, Fatimah revealed that stunting decreased from 23.1% to 19.4% in height for age, wasting reduced from 12% to 10.5% weight for height, and overweight declined from 7.6% to 6.8% BMI for age. Fatima further pointed out that the prevalence of stunting, wasting and overweight among children under 5 is lower than the national average. Meanwhile, stunting affected around 1 in 5 or 21.2% of all children in Malaysia compared to 19.4% prevalence in Sarawak. Fatima reiterated that this problem affects children on both ends of the financial spectrum. Fatima was responding to a report by a local press that highlighted the concerning issue of over 50% of children not having regular meals and rising rates of malnutrition. The report is based on the key findings of a report titled Living on the Edge, carried out by UNICEF. It is a longitudinal study on post-COVID-19 impact assessment among low-income households in Kuala Lumpur. For the record, the study is a continuation of the Families on the Edge project to measure the impact of the pandemic on women and children in low-income families in Kuala Lumpur. The data was collected from a total of 755 low-income households living in 16 low-cost public housing in Kuala Lumpur from October to November 2023. A total of 100,000 ringgit in zakat contributions by Affin Islamic Bank Berhad were handed over to 2 welfare centres today at the Majlis Ziarah Raya Affin program, held in collaboration with Sarawak Media Group. Chairman of Affin Bank Berhad, Dato' Agil Nats, said out of the total, 70,000 ringgit was presented to Pertubuhan Pemulihan Dalam Komuniti PPDK Seri Satok, while Pertubuhan Kebajikan Pusat Aktiviti Warga Emas Pawe Seri Satok received 30,000 ringgit.
Pada hari ini, kumpulan Affin akan menyampaikan sumbangan zakat dengan jumlah keseluruhan bernilai RM100,000 kepada pertubuhan, terima kasih, kepada Pertubuhan Pemulihan Dalam Komuniti PPDK Seri Satok dan Pusat Aktiviti Warga Emas Pawe Seri Satok, berserta sumbangan berupa barangan keperluan harian dan alat pembelajaran kepada 69 penerima terdiri daripada warga emas dan anak-anak yang disayangi daripada pusat kebajikan ini. Diharapkan penyampaian zakat dan sumbangan kecil ini dapat memberi sedikit keceriaan dan kegembiraan kepada mereka.
He said this in his speech during the Majlis Ziarah Raya program held at the Dato' Amar Hajah Jumaani Satok Welfare Centre PKPJ in Kuching. Additionally, he stressed that the zakat contribution to specified institutions and charitable organizations represent an integral aspect of Affin Group's continuous commitment to actively support and assist communities, particularly those most in need. The handover of the zakat contributions was presented by the chairman of Affin Bank Berhad, Dato' Agil Nat, and witnessed by the patron of a PKDAHJ, Puan Sri Dato' Amar Hajah Jumaani Tun Dato' Tuanku Haji Bujang, and the Chief Executive Officer of Affin Islamic Bank Berhad, Dato' Paduka Syed Masyafuddin Said Badaruddin. For the record, Affin Islamic Bank Berhad distributed zakat and donations totaling 3.8 million ringgit in 2023. These funds were allocated to approximately 84,500 beneficiaries, encompassing a diverse range of target groups. Meanwhile, the program, held in collaboration with Sarawak Media Group, served as a strategic partner in enhancing the outreach and awareness about the program. The initiative is a key component of TVS Corporate Social Responsibility Program, TVS Prihatin, which is primarily focused on engaging with and supporting the community with a special emphasis on aiding those in need. Tragedy struck as two Indonesian men lost their lives in a concrete collapse while working on a drainage construction project at Taman Samarinda, Kota Samarahan earlier this morning. A spokesperson for the State Fire and Rescue Department Operations Centre PGO in Sarawak said they received a report of the incident at 11:25 a.m. It immediately dispatched 10 firefighters from the Samarahan Fire and Rescue Station to the scene. Upon arrival, the responders found a collapsed 5-foot-high parapet wall at the construction site. Two male victims, aged 29 and 42, both Indonesian construction workers, were trapped in the concrete debris. The firefighters immediately commenced rescue operations and successfully extricated both victims with the assistance of construction workers using a crane for access. Both victims were successfully extricated by the firefighters and confirmed dead by the Malaysian Ministry of Health officials at the scene. The victim bodies have been handed over to the police for further action. Coming up right after the break, Malaysia to procure ships and jets from Turkey. And in world news, Israel shells Rafah as Biden vows arms suspension. Right here on Tvs Nightline, stay tuned. Welcome back. The government is currently focusing on efforts to address the non-revenue water and RW issue across the country as it is causing losses of over 2 billion ringgit annually. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Fadilah Yusof said these efforts include providing matching grants to assist water operators in dealing with the NRW issue more effectively and sustainably.
Sebab itu salah satu strategi kita, mana-mana kajian negeri yang non-revenue water lebih daripada 5%, kajian persekutuan membantu dengan memberi grant kepada mereka. Yang sudah baik, kita akan beri secara pinjaman untuk menggantikan pipe-pipe lama. Ini salah satu usaha kita.
Fadilah said the main challenge is with old pipes that are leaking, damaged and so on, leading to NRW where water is processed but lost due to leakage, and this requires significant funding to replace old pipes. Meanwhile, Fadilah, who is also Minister of Energy Transition and Water Transformation, said Malaysia has the most modern water infrastructure in Southeast Asia and has reached milestones in supplying clean water to its residents. Nevertheless, he said the water industry in this country continues to face challenges in securing sufficient water supplies, especially during dry seasons, in particular for domestic, agricultural and industrial requirements.
Dan pada masa sama kita tahu dengan climate change, salah satu cabaran yang kita perlu uruskan bukan saja dari segi bekalan air itu, tapi kadar air yang berlebihan boleh menyebabkan bencana, banjir dan sebagainya yang sudah pasti akan menjejaskan infrastruktur kita dan akhirnya memberi kesan kepada ekonomi dan kehidupan rakyat kita, kerugian dari segi kehilangan kerosakan harta benda dan sebagainya.
He said this to reporters after delivering a keynote address at the Symposium on Future Leaders of Water Sustainability, FLOWS 2024, Accelerating Impact for Water Resilience earlier today.
Malaysia is presently engaging in talks with Turkey to conclude the acquisition of littoral mission ships LMS. Defence Minister Datuk Seri Mohammed Khalid Nordin, in announcing this, stressed the significance of this procurement as it is one of the vessels used by the Royal Malaysian Navy RMN.
He spoke to reporters after opening the Turkish Aerospace Malaysia, TUSAS Malaysia's Sdn Bhd Operations Hub earlier today. Previously, it was reported that the Turkish shipbuilder Türkiye Savunma Teknolojileri Mühendisliği, or STM, expressed confidence in finalizing Batch 2 of the Littoral Mission Ships Agreement to provide the Royal Malaysian Navy, RMN, with the ADA-class corvette. STM General Manager Ozgur Guleus mentioned that discussion with the RMN and the Malaysian Ministry of Defence, MINDEF, have progressed smoothly over the past 2 years. When questioned about Turkey's invitation for Malaysia to participate in the development of its fifth-generation stealth fighter jet KAAN, Muhammad Khalid expressed optimism about the potential for cooperation between the two countries across a range of areas. Regarding the establishment of the hub, he emphasized its role in bolstering Malaysia's capabilities in aerospace manufacturing and technology, which would create employment opportunities for 120 local engineers. Muhammad Khalid commended Turkey's readiness to collaborate with Malaysia in sharing technology within the defense and aerospace sectors, underscoring the strong bond between the two countries.
The federal government is collaborating with technology company Meta Platforms Incorporated to introduce a chatbot feature through the WhatsApp mobile application aimed at combating misinformation and fake news. Minister of Communications Fahmi Fadzil said further discussions are ongoing and they hope that the feature can be launched to the public by the end of this month.
Harapan saya nanti semua yang menerima WhatsApp yang tak dapat kita sahkan daripada grup-grup surau, grup-grup taman, grup-grup alumni sekolah, kalau dapat maklumat yang tak kita tak dapat nak sahkan, kita boleh forward kepada chatbot ini dalam WhatsApp dan kita dapat pengesahan di situ. So saya lihat insya-Allah ini akan ada manfaat yang sangat baik dalam usaha untuk melawan fitnah dan juga berita yang tidak benar.
He said this when approached by reporters after attending the pre-launch of the Network and Infrastructure Partnership Framework at the National Youth Skills Institute IKBN, Pertak, Kuala Kubu Baharu, Selangor earlier today. Through a meeting with Meta yesterday, Fahmi was informed that the chatbot is ready for use, but some technical aspects need to be refined first by the Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission MCMC.
So kita akan bekerjasama dengan ada satu kumpulan yang membuat pengesahan. Nama kumpulan ini adalah Jom Check. Dia melibatkan ada beberapa NGO, ada kumpulan daripada bernama dan mereka mempunyai standard yang sangat tinggi. Jadi kita akan gunakan fact checking team ini dan laporan yang mereka hasilkan untuk menjawab.
Fahmi, who is also the Lembah Pantai MP, said the chatbot will also be equipped with multi-language functions such as Malay, Mandarin and Tamil to make it easy for the public to use. The third edition of Miss Petite Global and the second edition of Miss Teen Global will be making their comeback this year. Its organizer, Nixon Sim, described Miss Petite Global as a platform that highlights beauty queens who are often marginalized in traditional pageants.
Adalah merupakan edisi ketiga untuk pertandingan gadis yang berketinggian rendah di bawah 164 tahun dan juga pertandingan untuk para remaja yang berusia 14 sehingga 19 tahun di mana melibatkan 19 buah negara di mana kita ada negara daripada Asia, negara daripada Afrika dan juga Eropah tahun ini.
Nixon revealed that this edition of Miss Petite Global and Miss Teen Global will present the national costume rounds of their respective countries. What's more exciting is the increase in the number of participants compared to the previous edition.
Sebelum ni tak sebanyak edisi ketiga ni. Sebelum ni kita ada lebih kurang 10 negara, tapi tahun ni kita ada pertambahan 9 buah negara di mana ada pertambahan daripada benua Eropah dan juga benua Afrika. Sebab tahun lepas kita tak ada. Istimewanya adalah ini adalah pertandingan yang pertama di Asia yang mempromosikan mencari model yang berketinggian 168 cm ke bawah. Yang kita selalu tengok pertandingan Ratu Cantik adalah nak naik yang tinggi-tinggi.
The Miss Petite Global and Miss Teen Global competition, which is highly successful in recognizing talent worldwide, returns with a larger lineup of representatives this year. The final rounds will be held at the HGH Convention Centre in Sentul, Kuala Lumpur on May 11, 2024. The winners will take home a cash prize of 25,000 ringgit and a crown. On to world news. Israel shelled Rafah earlier today as US President Joe Biden offered his starkest warning yet over the conduct of its war against Hamas, vowing to cut off arms transfers if an offensive into the southern Gaza city goes ahead. Israel has already defied international objections by sending in tanks and conducted targeted raids in the border city, which it says is home to Hamas' last remaining battalions, but is also crowded with displaced Palestinian civilians.
In an interview with CNN on Wednesday, Biden warned he would stop U.S. weapon supplies to Israel if it pushed ahead with its long-threatened Rafah ground offensive. Biden told CNN if they go into Rafah, he's not supplying the weapons that have been used to deal with the cities. He added the U.S. is not going to supply the weapons and the artillery shells that have been used. Israel on Thursday called the threat very disappointing. Israel on Tuesday seized Rafah's border crossing into Egypt, which had served as the main entry point for aid into besieged Gaza. The White House condemned the interruption to humanitarian deliveries at the time, and the Secretary of Defense later confirmed Washington had paused a shipment of heavy bombs into Israel after it failed to address concerns over its Rafah ground incursion. Biden, in his interview with CNN, said civilians have been killed in Gaza as a consequence of those bombs, and that is just wrong. He insisted, however, that the United States, Israel's staunchest ally, was not walking away from Israel's security. In Israel's first reaction to Biden's threat, its ambassador to the United Nations, Gilad Erdan, called it a difficult and very disappointing statement to hear. The United States, along with Egypt and Cairo, have been heavily involved in talks currently underway in Cairo, aimed at brokering a ceasefire in the 7th-month war.
Impose all possible sanctions on
Qatar is calling upon global leaders to prevent a genocide that is about to happen in the southern city of Rafah, following Israel's invasion of the Gaza city's crossing with Egypt and threats of further destruction. In a statement, Qatar appealed to the world for urgent international action to prevent the city from being invaded and a crime of genocide being committed.
On Wednesday, Israel persisted in conducting airstrikes in the Gaza Strip after seizing control of the main border crossing with Egypt. This action, even criticized by its primary ally, the United States, resulted in the deaths of 7 members of a single family and caused injuries to several others. The operation began hours after Hamas accepted a truce proposal, of which the conditions Israel rejected. Nevertheless, the announcement sparked celebratory gatherings in the streets of Gaza. It was short-lived, however, as Israel bombardment cut the celebration short. These attacks coincided with ongoing negotiations in Cairo aimed at securing a hostage release agreement and ceasefire in the 7-month conflict. Despite widespread international opposition, Israel has persistently declared its intention to initiate a ground operation in Rafah, a southern city teeming with displaced civilians. As a consequence, the U.S. has suspended a shipment of bombs destined for Israel that had been en route since last week, citing the failure of the law-breaking state to adequately address U.S. concerns regarding a potential major ground operation. This marked the first instance of U.S. President Joe Biden acting on a warning he had issued to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu back in April, emphasizing that U.S. policy regarding Gaza would hinge on Israel's treatment of civilians. Consequently, Israel has reopened the Kerem Shalom border crossing in an attempt to appease the U.S.
Those were the updates on Tvs Nightline. I'm Lorenzo Isaac. Thank you for watching and good night.